Yeah. Hello and welcome again to this session where we'll be talking about the power of human angle stories or human interest stories. We'll be looking at more like the impact of human interest stories. Why do we need to do these stories? What influence do they, bring? Do we just do it for the sake of it, like or do we really realize how powerful these stories can be and what impact it will make in people's lives? Let's look at it from the positive angle, first of all. When you do very good human interest stories, it makes it more like it forces the hand of people to more like put themselves in the shoes of those who are involved. I give you an example. Al Jazeera did a story recently about Senegal producing test kits that cost a dollar. It was widely shared. The journalist went to the lab, spoke to those who were involved, and that has more like raised a whole lot of awareness. People are like, oh, if Senegal can do that, we Nigerians, we can do that. Cameroonians can do that. Kenyans can do that. So people are beginning to think that, oh, if Senegal, very close home now, can do that, anybody else can do it. It's not just the knowledge to produce vaccines or test kits. It doesn't just reside in a particular region of the world. So when you do human interest stories, it's so powerful that it changes people's line of thought. People begin to see, okay, we can actually also follow this method. We can actually adopt this practice and also be like the people we've just watched their stories or we've read about or we've listened to over the radio. Another thing is when you do human interest stories, it actually more like puts government under pressure to act. What I mean is, if you highlight a problem, for instance, government has no choice in most cases than to act. When you do maybe a human interest story about a community that is about to be swept by flooding in any part of maybe a part of Nigeria, especially the southern part where it floods during the rainy season, and you do that story by going there yourself, speaking to people, showing pictures, either still pictures or videos of people who are more like just hanging on there. Government will have no choice than to act. Maybe if you had just done stories, generic stories about floods, oh, there's been flooding in southern part of Nigeria for XYZ number of days, some people have been displaced, government might not really act. But when you focus on the people, what they are going through, what they've, what the experiences they've had, and they share the experiences, you write from the point of speaking to them about what they've, been experiencing. Government in most cases will be forced, or authorities, not just government, will be forced. It could be NGOs who will take it upon themselves to be able to act. Another thing that the human interest stories does is it's so powerful that it brings about, gives you an opportunity to bring to light untold stories. There's so many things happening across the world which people don't know about. But when you do these feature-based human interest stories, which gives you enough time to highlight what's happening, to speak to the people concerned, not just relying on statistics, not just relying on press statements, but you're speaking to the people concerned. It gives you an opportunity to tell stories that ordinarily most journalists wouldn't be able to report or people wouldn't know about. For instance, you might go to, say, Nigeria's capital, Abuja, and do stories about communities where, the women the women are the only ones who go to work and the men sleep all day. Some people might never believe it if you just talked about it. But when you go there, you speak to these women, and these women are happy, sharing their experiences, telling you, "Oh yeah, we're happy to go to work while our husbands, take care of the home and all that," which is mostly in African culture like a reversal of roles, in some cases. So that is something that an untold stories that people have never talked about. So that's this thing that the human interest stories gives you that power to be able to tell untold stories that people wouldn't imagine even existed, or people never imagined the magnitude of the problem. Also, it gives you it gives power to the people who are affected, which is like voice to the voiceless. That's one of the liners that Al Jazeera uses. I think some other media also use that. Okay, we give voice to the voiceless. When you do human interest stories, people who ordinarily wouldn't imagine seeing themselves on TV or their names appearing in newspapers or blogs or websites or being heard on radio are given an opportunity to talk about the issues they believe in, issues they're experiencing, issues they've gone through, issues that they've confronted, how they resolve their problems. Not just problems, it could also be for people who are engaged in innovation. We've had numerous cases of people who invent things, but they never get the opportunity or never get the voice to be heard. So when you do these human interest stories, recently there was a report about some young boys in Kaduna, northwest Nigeria, who were producing movies using a broken phone. They did a video. Al Jazeera picked it up, and they did a social video about it of just about a minute plus, less than 2 minutes. I think about a minute and a half, a minute 45 seconds. And after they did that, some movie producers called for their contacts. And these guys today, they've been offered scholarships. They have been offered training to be able to produce better movies using better equipment. And I'm sure, the Kaduna state government, that's the state government, is trying to also support, because shortly after that, the video went viral. The government now promised to get equipment for them and get them like a proper studio. So when you do these human interest stories, they're so powerful that they give voice, they give opportunities to people who ordinarily wouldn't be this thing wouldn't even dream or imagine that they'll be on the international stage. You never can tell how far your stories will might be, which is why when you're trying to do these stories, you bear in mind that, look, I'm going to tell a story that would change the course of life, that would affect a lot of lives, that will motivate a whole lot of people. So how do I really plan and ensure that this story is told in a way that it carries that required power to be able to impact lives? Either, no matter how you look at it, it's mostly positive, because even if people are in problem and you highlight their issues, when government intervenes, it brings relief to them. When people innovate and try to come up with all sorts of inventions, or are successful in a particular field, and you give them a voice, and you make a government to recognize what they've done, you ensure that even bigger corporations see what they've done. That's how powerful this future human interest stories can be. So how powerful do you think you've actually made your reports to look like? It depends on how you tell the stories. It depends on the kind of human interest stories you try to create. Because if you realize the power of human interest stories, you put in extra effort. It's not something that you just do and say, okay, you don't give in your best. Human interest stories require a whole lot of patience, planning, and also it's time consuming. and also consumes resources more than the regular press statements or press conferences where you just come back and literally vomit whatever people have said during conferences. So, yeah, send me your questions. Let me know what you think about the power of human angle stories. And if you want practical examples of some of the reports I've done in the past or what I'm even still working on right now, just let me know and I'll be here to answer your questions. Have a good day.